Welcome to DC. You know we're out at the USA Cup. You're taking it slightly, I'm taking it slightly. Now how you throw apple, you gon' be right back. Well, we gon' be right here, we gon' be right here. We ain't going nowhere. Welcome to DC. DC, the home of Chuck Brown. Oh, you don't know the sound? Well, let me break it down. The G-O, the G-O, the M-A, and B-O. See, though, we've been pumping crank since an embryo, really, though.
All right, this is the Big Douglas Show. Subscribe, rate, and review. Big Pooh, what's happening?
What's happening? Good to be here on the, I don't know what it's like outside, but it's lovely inside. It's a lovely Monday inside.
It's still nice outside. And from the Trapper Dive podcast, we've got Dre and Jamual. Fellas, what's happening?
What's going on, Big Doug?
You guys got it.
What's going on, boss man?
It was an interesting week of football. It's always nice to be able to relax. The Thursday game we'll get into. Pooh, what did you find interesting from a Sunday not having to watch the game?
It was relaxing, man. We were just talking about it before we hit record, but it was just relaxing knowing that you didn't have to stress out over your team on Sunday. You know, I mean, I play fantasy football and I get on my DraftKings a little bit. So, you know, you got them stresses, but it's not the same. So it was relaxing, man. I did notice, because I'm a red zone guy when my team isn't on, but it was a lot of sloppy football being played this weekend. But other than that, man, it ended on a high note with the Sunday night game. That was a good game, you know, for everybody but the Chiefs and Chiefs fans. But yeah, it was a cool weekend, man. I enjoyed it. It was like getting that extra slice of piece of cake, where, you know, you didn't feel guilty eating it because you worked out already earlier in the week. So
cheat day accepted.
yeah, cheat day accepted. You know, so I felt like The Rock. You know what I'm saying? With my cheat meal. So it was cool. It was a cool Sunday. Probably won't have too many of these, but it was a cool Sunday.
Jamal, what stood out to you from this weekend?
Well, to piggyback off of Pooh, you know what I'm saying? I think it was pretty good in a sense of you just finally get to relax. Like, your game was already played on Thursday, win or lose, you going in there because you're a fan of football. And for me, you know, I tuned into quite a few games. I think the one that stood out to me the most was that Tennessee and Seattle game. Not only the fact that I had Tennessee plus the 5.5, just seeing how the game unfolded in Seattle blowing a lead in which Tennessee's defense really couldn't stop them, and they still found a way to lose. So it was a long day, a lot of football, but that Tennessee game was good, and obviously that late night game with the Ravens and the Chiefs was wild. But it's kind of crazy. Like, matter of fact, now that I think about it, every single primetime game, excluding the Sunday night opener with the Rams and the Bears, every single primetime game has been incredible so far. So I hope they keep it up tonight. Betting on the Lions, I don't know, but
I was just getting ready to say that the primetime games have been incredible. Not looking forward to the Lions necessarily. Dre, what about you?
Yeah, man, as both of the fellas said, just the best thing about this weekend was the most stressful part was fantasy football. I mean, you know, I went 1-2, I think, with my 3 leagues. So that was the most stressful thing. But other than that, like, surprising, I have to say, I watched a lot of games. The 1 o'clock games were really bad for the most part. The 4 o'clock games were very entertaining. Of course, the night game. But the biggest surprise for me was that Raiders team. Like, I didn't know what to make of them last week after the Monday night game against the Ravens. I said, okay, that was an emotional game to open up the season. So I said, okay, they're going to Pittsburgh at a 1 o'clock game, which West Coast teams usually struggle with. So in my opinion, I'm thinking, okay, they're going to probably lose to the Steelers team. That defense is great up there in Pittsburgh. But Oakland just looked like they dominated them for most of the game. I mean, they look like a legit team. And I got to say, John Gruden and Mike Mayock, it didn't take them, 2 or 3 years to get the Raiders back to respectability, and they look legit.
And it's crazy about that Raiders team because if you look at it, they've missed on all kinds of first-round picks and aren't even getting any kind of playing time, just healthy scratches. But Gruden can coach. He always has. People were starting to get worried about them. The other thing I thought was interesting, man, Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are lighting the league up right now. It's only 2 games, but he's better than I expected. And I think that's probably an odd statement because I expected him to be pretty good. But they're putting up points. You got to score in the league. You got to be able to put up points now. Poot, are you just now finding out about that wrestling show? On,
the Dark Side of the Ring? Yes.
Yeah.
I stumbled across it. Last night. I finished watching the Lula Rich documentary about the LuLaRoe clothing scam empire. And I was just looking for something to watch, and I stumbled across it. And I don't watch wrestling now, but back in the 80s, early 90s, to the mid 90s, to about when I went to college in 98, I watched wrestling. So I'm familiar with a lot of the people that they're talking about in them episodes. And so I saw Macho Man Randy Savage was the first one from season 1, and I was locked. Like, come on,
I watched
Man.
the one on Jake the Snake Roberts and his family the other day. You haven't seen that one?
No. I've only seen 3. I've seen the Macho Man and Elizabeth, the Bret Hart one. Just watched that one, and then the what was that other dude name? It was a dude I had never heard of. Where they killed him in Puerto Rico. He got killed in Puerto Rico. Yeah. So those are the only 3.
Check that out. You got to do it.
You got to do it, man. Dark Side of the Ring. It's on Hulu. It's commercial free. That's where you want to be with it.
Gotta watch that because these sound like all my wrestling heroes. I stopped watching wrestling in like 97, like 98, like you, Pooh.
Mm-hmm.
But I was hardcore, man. I used to have a wrestling coloring books, all of the little wrestling action figures. I would make them fight. I would make them go to the movies and do all kind of wild stuff on them back in the days, man.
This where you want to be at then, man. I'm trying to tell you. I'm ready to. I mean, I got stuff to do, but I'm ready to get back into it and just start watching episodes today.
Well, there was a game. Believe it or not, the Washington football team won that game. It's hard to tell if you were on social media. So we did this, and Jamal, I'll start with you. I asked each of you to come up with a word that best describes where you feel we're at after 2 games.
Oh, yeah, I saw that, and even afterwards, I still struggled coming up with one word. And where we're at, if you can find 1,000 variations of the word inconsistent, just use it. Just do it. And just a quick explanation. I just don't. The way the offense has been playing. I mean, we're lucky to be in the games that we were. From an overall standpoint of not necessarily expecting the defense to play as poorly as they've been playing. So inconsistent in the sense that the offense has rose to the occasion to help our defense out, but at the same time, the defense has done what they could in moments to actually help our offense out. Like, for example, the opening drives with the Giants and the Chargers. Obviously, both teams did what they wanted. And you never really anticipate that with a defense that you expected to be people expected to be a top 10 unit. Right now, I think if I had to look, matter of fact, yeah, they are 24th right now in the NFL. And I mean, obviously 2 games in, that's not where you want to be, but at the same time, the 2 drives against the Giants and the Chargers, the openers were poor, but then at the same time, they came back, and kept the offense in it when they were struggling to even get a first down. I think the first 2 drives against the Giants were 2 3-and-outs. There was multiple 3-and-outs against the Chargers. Multiple 3-and-outs against the Chargers. And inconsistent is the word or a variation of that word. But that's kind of where I'm at with them, man. So until they can find where they are, I don't think until they can find their identity, I don't think anything's going to change right now.
Dre, what you got for us?
I guess for me, I would say anxious. And that's because that's how I've been feeling before each of these games that started this season. Like the Chargers game, you had that anxiety of the new season starting. You don't know what to expect. I mean, you kind of got an idea, or you think you know what your team may be strong at. But coming out of that game, we had an injury to the starting quarterback. We had Taylor Heineke being named starter again for the second time in his career. Then you had the defense that looked pretty bad that you thought was going to be pretty good going in. So you were anxious going into the Thursday night game against the Giants because you're like, what's going to be the outcome of this season? And I felt like that Giants game was going to tell you a lot. Like if you go in there and you lose that game, you're probably going to be dejected and you don't have much expectations at all for the rest of the season. But then you go in and you win that game and it's back to, oh, okay, can we still compete for this division? We're right there. So going into this week, again, I'm anxious because now we're playing against a Buffalo team. And for a lot of people, they kind of think that Taylor Heineke, he has a lot to prove in this game. Like, I mean, is he going to be the guy we've been seeing over his past few starts, or will he come back down to earth? So I'm anxious for that because I feel like his performance is going to dictate a lot. Like if he goes into Buffalo and do what he did last week, then people are going to really have to stop dismissing this guy as your starting quarterback. So, and if he does it, then it's like, oh, you're still going to have the questions. So right now, I'm just anxious to see how we move forward again.
Befuddled. That's my word. Befuddled.
Befuddled?
Yeah, it's so on the offensive side of the ball, I'm wondering how do we keep having quarterback musical chairs? And it's for a variation of reasons. So it's not, people always, oh man, because y'all don't have the the starting quarterback of the future and all, like, no, like these are crazy. Like Ryan Fitzpatrick got hit on what looked like a typical hard hit and his hip came out of socket. Like, like what? So just going through so many quarterbacks and I read somewhere it was like, we've had like 10 starters since RG3 or something like that. Which is insane. So you have the quarterback conundrum. You have the offensive line isn't gelled completely. It's a whole lot of leaks in that line. It's almost like they're getting used to playing with each other. And then, of course, you have a rookie at right tackle who's getting abused these first two games. And then you have the defense where you have miscommunication in the secondary, which keep allowing big plays. Then you have lack of discipline on the front and the linebackers, which are allowing big plays like Daniel Jones running for 50-something, scampering for 50-something yards off of a lack of discipline on the edge. So I'm just like, yo, what is going on here? Like, were you guys not ready to start the season? How did the defense, we added some players. We didn't lose anybody that really, like, we lost Ronald Darby, but gained William Jackson. Like, that's an upgrade. But the defense looks worse. Like, it looks so much worse. And it's one of the things where you keep hoping, okay, the light's gonna switch. Something's gonna switch on, and they're gonna become the dominant defense that they were for most of last season. But right now, you're just praying, like, please just be the bend, don't break defense. Like, between the 20s, let them get whatever they want. But when we get to the 20s, please, like, hold them. So it's just befuddling how this team, I mean, obviously they were ready to play, but in a lot of ways, they don't look like they were ready to go for the regular season.
Terry is lacking purpose or a plan. And that's it. I'm not sure I get what the plan is on offense. I'm not sure if I get what the plan is on defense. It was supposed to be, attack the quarterback or stopping the run on your way to the quarterback. They don't have any shot of doing that. To your point, Daniel Jones ran for 95 yards. 95 by himself. I don't understand how you do that when it's the line that's supposed to be so good. They refuse to address linebacker. Even though we all knew, I mean, they let KPO go. He was no world beater, but he was decent last year. Now, maybe that's because they think they can do that with just anybody. I'm not sure that it's shown yet. Jamin Davis is looking better, but maybe middle linebacker is the hardest position to transfer to. So they have decided to let this team be young. Ron has said that they played young. The teams under Ron technically and usually get better as the year goes on. So we'll see. We need them to do that. This will be the first away start for Heineke. He has been excellent. Jamal, what do we need out of him on Sunday to beat what is a really good Bills team?
Oh man, I think throughout the week, it was at some point somebody asked the question. I think it was a poll, and I may butcher the options, but essentially the poll was pointing to this question: if we were fans of another team, all four of us, and we looked at Taylor Heineke as the quarterback that we're playing that particular week, what would be the perception of Taylor Heineke from an outsider's perspective if you had to put yourself in that box? I forget the four options, but my response was just this simple. Right now, nobody's really scared of Heineke. The league has seen 1,000 Heinekes before. They've seen these guys with potential. They've seen these guys show flashes in the pan. They've seen these guys do X, Y, Z in the spots that he's played in. And as you prepare for a quarterback like that, I'm not sitting here saying that Heineke is that same stigma or that same perceived player, but at the same time, Heineke has to continue to show that he's more than that. And when you go against a Buffalo team that's going to be really good they're good regardless, but when you go to Orchard Park and you play against Buffalo at their home stadium, which is really hard to play with just because they have that energetic and wired fan base, people that's going to be on you from snap one to the last snap. Heineke has to still play under control, the same under control individual that he played when he was at home against Tampa, when he was at home against the Panthers, and then when he was at home against the Chargers and this year the Giants. He has to continue to play under control. He's been taking a lot of the spaces and areas that the defense has given him to this point. He's proved that he can throw inside and outside of the pocket. He can make plays on both aspects, but at the same time, you can't get outside of character. And I think that's the most important thing that he's been able to do under Scott Turner is that he understands the system. He knows where people are supposed to be. For example, Adam Humphries last week, he had a big game for his position, a slot position. But at the same time, he was there for Heineke's checkdowns. He was there on the bubble screens. He was there for a lot of areas in which if Heineke couldn't see somebody downfield, he's going to go to Adam Humphries. And finding those outlets is really important for a guy, especially on the road too, where you're going to have that hostile environment. You don't want to psych yourself out. You want to stick to what you know best and continue doing that. So I think the biggest key for him is just staying in his lane and understanding that you can still move the ball without having to go for the jugular every single time. And that's exactly what Heineke's done to this point. We'll see if he can do it on the road. I got faith that he'll stay within the game plan.
He definitely, it was noticeable, Pooh. I don't know if you noticed this or not, but not many rushes if he rushed at all. He stayed in the pocket, which is not his normal MO. I wonder if the coaching staff said, hey, don't forget, kid, this is your shot here. Don't blow it. The only reason you don't have this job before is because he couldn't stay healthy. He looked good in the pocket. He looked better than I expected.
I think he's cognizant of the fact that he's a smaller guy and, injuries. He bulked up over the off season to try to prevent more nicks and bruises. So I think that was part of it. As a quarterback, you're the orchestrator, man. Like, you're not Lamar Jackson. Just dump that thing off to the playmakers and let them play. Going to Buffalo, my concern is Scott Turner. He did something not many people were talking about after the game. Yes, Heineke threw that interception, but why was he even throwing the ball? They had just ran 2 run plays. The first one was for like 11 or 12 yards to get from the end zone line. The second one was for like 5 or 6 yards. You were making them burn timeouts. You were burning clock. Why were you throwing the ball? What was the point?
I was surprised by that too, Pooh.
Like, run the ball. Like, Gibson was actually running the ball pretty decent that game, but Tyler still threw the ball. I don't know how many times he threw the ball. Too much, in my opinion. And it's like you have a run game. This goes to your point, Doug. It's like, what is the plan on offense? Like, what is the plan here? You have a running back that can actually run the ball. Your offensive line has your quarterback under pressure, even though he wasn't really sacked. He was still under pressure. you're down, you're up one or up whatever they was up in this the end of the game. Run the ball. And Scott he called a pass play. So I'm still this is the stuff people talked about last year with Scott Turner. Like, what kind of coordinator is he or will he be? And I think he's still learning certain nuances on the fly because he's a pretty, young offensive coordinator calling plays. But it's like, you have to create an identity. You're going on the road. You're going into these tough stadiums. Orchard Park is very tough. The Bills are very good. You have to have a game plan. So I'm interested in Scott Turner's game plan when you have a quarterback that you didn't anticipate playing at this point in the season. You're missing one of your biggest offseason signing on offense, and you have an offensive line that's still gelling. What are you going to do in Buffalo when that crowd's going crazy, that defense going crazy? What kind of game plan are you going to have for Buffalo? So I'm definitely, that's, as we look forward to next week, that's definitely what I'm thinking about.
7 catches for 44 yards for Humphries. So not a huge day. Dre, I got to give you props. You were the first one when I came on with y'all to put me on to DeAndre Carter. He looks good back there. He looks better than anything we've had in a long time. I wish he'd stop getting pissed off every time the ball goes out the back of the end zone on kickoffs. Yeah, that would frustrate me a little bit, but he looks good. What does he need to be more successful?
Well, I think on special teams, you already kind of see what he can do. Like on special teams, he's a guy, he knows what he wants to do. He's very decisive, which is something we haven't really had too much of guys here in the past. Like a lot of guys, they either didn't know if they want to fair catch it most of the time, or they didn't know if they just wanted to go east or west, but they rarely went north and south. So with him, you see him always pushing the ball up, and he also has the quickness to get by guys as well. But offensively, I've noticed he's been a part. They're starting to slowly put him in more packages. Like last week, I think we seen him on a handoff from the line of scrimmage. And then there was a couple of plays, and a lot of people were kind of pissed early in the game. I think on Heineke's pass to Diami Brown, where he threw it high, Diami caught it, but streaking up the middle of the field wide open was DeAndre Carter, which would have been a touchdown had Heineke seen him. But so I think offensively, I would love to see him start to get more of those Curtis Samuel packages until Curtis Samuel gets back, because he looks very explosive. Like you can put this guy in and maybe get him on a deep pass, or maybe start giving him some catches out of the backfield on some bubble screens or something. So I look for him to get more involved offensively. But as far as special team wise, I love my guy getting mad that he hasn't returned it, because he feel like he can make a play. I want my guys to feel like they can always make a play every time they touch the ball. So special teams wise, I've been more than impressed with him.
Jamal, they were running a ton of the 5-man front. I was hoping that they would do that. We've talked about that in the past. They still really didn't get to the quarterback very effectively. What are we doing here on defense? The scheme last year worked. I'm surprised that they tinkered with it this year. Are you?
I'm not surprised that they tinkered with it. I think what they've come to realize is the when you get good pieces or solid pieces around your front seven, meaning like your secondary, you can kind of make some alterations with the people that you utilize up front. If you have five defensive linemen, in my opinion, I feel like you can utilize obviously two, but maybe 3 safeties, and you kind of try to figure out what you want to do from there. As far as the pressure thing is going, it's rough. So like Chase Young had either 2 or 3 pressures from either Next Gen or Pro Football Focus. It was either one of those two where he was recorded as 2 or 3 pressures. Obviously there was other linemen like Jonathan Allen who did really good with the pressures and stuff like that. Montez Sweat had a couple. And I mean the pressure is getting there against the Giants. But the thing is, it's supposed to get there. And surprisingly, you had 47% pressures, and the expectations coming into that game was this defensive line should be dominating the Giants, especially with the injuries that they have. So I would have expected it a little bit more. Honestly, I would have expected over 50% of the pressures. But Giants did a good job adjusting in the second half. The first half is where I think Washington really made their money's worth or got their money worth. But this pass rush is kind of, I mean, it's there, but it ain't. And that's not necessarily a good thing because it should be undoubtedly there with the talent that they have up front. And in the run game, these guys are just getting out of position. There's a lot of, like, I've seen Chase Young. I watched the game probably about an hour ago just to catch up. And Chase Young, well, I rewatched the game, but Chase Young's out of position in the run fits. I don't know exactly. I mean, when you're trying to get to the quarterback, that's all you're really focusing on. But at the same time, when you get out of your run fits, what are they going to do? Like, Saquon's good enough to find that hole. And when you when you get against the better running backs, they're going to keep doing that and stuff like that. Or when you get out of position, it makes the job easier for the linemen too. Like, they're going to use your aggressiveness against you. And I'm using Chase Young as the basic example, but he wasn't the only one doing it. There was a few people who were just out of position in the run fits. And on top of that, we're talking about the linebackers here too, who's played their role in the run game and it hasn't been good. But yes, that front five, I don't have a problem with that five-man front. It didn't really surprise me because they were going to tinker with it and try and get these guys on the field. But people just have to do their job. And Ron harped on that multiple times after the Chargers and after the Giants game, man. It's a problem.
Definitely.
It's interesting. Real quick, Pooh, my bad. It's interesting you say that because I had rewatched the game this morning myself. And I don't know if it's the same play that you were talking about, but late in the third, or I think it was in the middle of fourth quarter, maybe, the Giants are driving. And Chase Young is so busy trying to smash the original guy he gets in contact with, he doesn't even realize that Saquon's right next to him. Over aggression, maybe. My bad, Pooh. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's all good. Now I was gonna just double back on what Jamal was saying. The defensive line, if you noticed so far, well, first the Chargers had an excellent game plan. Herbert was getting that ball out so fast, like all they should have been working on putting their hands up versus trying to get to the quarterback because that's how fast he was delivering that ball. But the defense, if you notice early in the season, how well or not good they've been playing, it's in order of the year, right? So Jonathan Allen has been playing the best. He's been there the longest. Then Deron Payne has been, he's been decent. And then Montez Sweat, and then Chase Young. Like, that's the order in how they've looked. And so it was interesting. Just I harped on this all off season. Yes, we have expectations, but this is only year 2 of a rebuild. This team is very young, and you're seeing a lot of that inexperience come to play. Like Jamal was saying, the run fits were bad, on the line, and then the linebackers not coming in the field properly where they're supposed to be at. And so all this works in conjunction with each other. And you're seeing this, in real time, or if you're rewatching the game, and Ron is harping on it, like, listen, just do your job. Just you can't do 5 jobs. Just do your job. If your job is just to go straight up, go straight up. And trust that the man behind you is going to do their job. And nobody is like on that defense. Nobody's trusting anybody to do their job. Everybody's trying to make the play, like the Daniel Jones 50-some yard scamper for the touchdown. Every time he ran the ball to the outside, the same thing happened. Whoever was on that end, their responsibility is that quarterback. They will crash down hard. Like, your responsibility is the quarterback, and your responsibility is to be there for a cutback. Why are you crashing down so hard? Trust that the guys on the other side of that line are going to do what they're supposed to do. And so it's just frustrating seeing that. I know it's only game 2, but it's just frustrating seeing that over and over. And like, because the Giants really ran that play like 5 or 6 times.
Jonathan Allen does look more explosive this year. His get off from the line is different than it was last year. He obviously worked on it, but explosion wise, and I'm gonna tell you that deal's gonna look real good in a year or 2.
It already does.
Yeah, I agree.
It already does.
You getting his money's worth right there.
From the inside, like he's nobody's Aaron Donald, but it's looked like he's trying to be baby Aaron Donald coming from the inside. So they just have a lot. I think they would have been I understand why they didn't do it, but I think they would have been better off this year bringing in who was it? It was a KJ Wright, the guy from the Seahawks.
Nobody else is like him either, though.
Yeah, I think they would have benefited from bringing in someone like that on that middle level that could have stabilized that middle level and still had game to play. I know Ron tried it last year with Thomas Davis, but Thomas Davis was done. He was done. KJ Wright still has a lot of game left, as you're seeing in Las Vegas. And I think they would have benefited from having somebody at that important position that could orchestrate and put people in the correct places for that defense and make sure the linebackers were doing what they were supposed to be doing, because that's a big part of the puzzle. Like, yes, the defensive line has been getting out of sorts, but when your linebackers aren't there to erase some of that, it's trouble. It's trouble.
Dre, the team could easily be 2-0. They could easily be 0-2. We're sitting here at 1-1. How do you prefer to look at it? Wait, should we be 2-0? Should we be 0-2? Or who cares? I'm just glad we're not 0-2.
I feel like we are where we're supposed to be right now. I mean, because each game you can look at a number of things and say if it went this way, it would have went the other way. Like in the Chargers game, you could say, hey, if Antonio Gibson doesn't fumble, we win the game. Or you could say if the Giants don't go offside, we'll lose the game. So I think right now the team is just where they are supposed to be. Obviously, this is the point of time you want to start seeing things get better, like with Pooh and the defensive talk. As far as you always hear Ron Rivera mention maturity with this team. He speaks about that a lot. And you can see it. I mean, there's some guys that need to mature. I mean, whether it's guys that are looking out for themselves and playing themselves over the scheme, or just guys that just need more reps into the scheme. I think of Jamin Davis for one. Like, Jamin Davis made a significant improvement just from game 1 to game 2. Now, I know some people mention that's a small sample of snaps, but so was game 1, and we killed him in week 1. So then week 2, he goes out there and he has the second highest rated defensive rookie thing for the whole weekend of all defensive rookies, and that was in 20 snaps. So I think the more as the season progresses, you're going to see that guy get better. The more he starts playing with experience, he stops thinking so much, and that's going to significantly help the defense, because that's going to be one spot that's a weakness right now that should eventually maybe not turn into a strength, but it's not going to be the weakness that it is today. And then also, as we were talking about discipline, at some point you're going to start seeing guys get benched. If they're not going to play within the scheme, you're going to see guys get benched, and then you're going to have somebody come in like a Reeves or a Everett, like they did last year when the defense started improving, and that's when you'll see little subtle improvements in the defense.
Who is that? Do you think? What you're talking about here, I think, is I saw this right before we got on here that Doc Walker on his podcast said that a lot of people on the defense are playing freelance and not playing within the scheme. Who is that? Do you know?
I think a lot of people come to the assumption that it's Landon Collins, especially when we're just talking about
he's one of them.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you're talking about the RPOs, he's crashing towards the running back when he's supposed to have outside contain on the quarterback. So, I mean, he did that quite a couple times, which is why the Giants were able to get away with it. And not only that, you also have the play where Slayton breaks free on that pass where everyone's like, how did he get so open? I think Landon Collins is out there. He jumped down when he was supposed to stay up. And that could have been him trying to, save for the linebackers' weaknesses or whatever. But either way, he's not playing within the scheme. And that's one of the guys that just jumps out immediately to me when I see it.
Yeah, no, I definitely noticed that when they showed that replay of the Slayton, they just didn't harp on it because they got away. They started harping on the fact that Slayton dropped the ball, but
right
when they showed it from the quarterback's angle, the first thing I noticed was William Jackson passed him off. And his responsibility was if that tight end, because that's the where he was at. But you saw Landon Collins, he took like 2 steps back and he just jumped in like the ball was going to the tight end. It was like, that's not your responsibility.
Willie Jackson went off about that play on Instagram. You see that?
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I didn't see it, but he probably like, yo, don't blame me. I'm playing. And what's funny? I think it was when Josh Norman was here. And, them defenses were bad, but he will always say, when you see a corner get burnt like that, it isn't always the corner's fault. And people were like, oh, no, we paying you all this money. Whoop, whoop, whoop. But that's what he was talking about. Like, people looking like, William Jackson, you got burnt. What was you doing? That wasn't his responsibility. He did what he was supposed to do.
If you didn't see it, go back and try to find it. Pac-Man Jones, I guess, says something about his play. And he went off like, I stole your job. You're the reason why you're not in Cincinnati no more. Like, don't come at me. I got the weekend off. It's a Thursday night. I got plenty of time on my hands. Go back and find it. It was hilarious. In a long ass time. Maul, the Bills are putting up points on everybody. It's one of the bigger offenses in the league. Quick look ahead. What on earth do we do to keep in the game? Because we're going to have to keep up, right? I mean, this is not this is not a score 20-point win game, is it?
We'll definitely have to keep up. So I haven't had a chance to really look at the Bills, and shout out to NFL Game Pass, those a-holes for removing the all 22 film. And they're just making things much harder on me. And all the other people who like to look at the game film. But what I will say to this point, you have to find a way to just literally just temper or contain this offense. And by this offense, I mean Josh Allen, because he is the offense for Buffalo Bills. I mentioned really early on of our show is that the 7 points allowed on the Giants game, the Giants opener and the Chargers opener, that has a lot to do with, first of all, preparation, but secondly, you can make mid-drive adjustments, Mr. Del Rio. Like, you don't have to wait until the drive is over or until the half is over to say, all right, this is what we need to do. I think what kind of hurt this team is just not understanding who you're going up against. So it seems like the perception, you're not understanding you're going up against a Daniel Jones, who's a mobile quarterback. You're not understanding that you're going up against Justin Herbert, who can kill you from the pocket. He can kill you and get the ball out of his hands in less than a half a second if he wanted to. These things are just things that you're not prepared for. And for Washington, it's something that I noticed late in the game against Daniel Jones, in the Giants, was that they had Cam Curl in a QB spiral on key downs. And I think you don't need to waste time when it comes to Josh Allen figuring out what he does best. He's a mobile quarterback. He has a strong arm. But if you're gonna try and limit him and keep him inside the pocket, or make sure that he keeps those decisions to inside the pocket or behind the line of scrimmage, you make sure you keep that safety or that linebacker in a spiral from start to finish, because there's no need to say, all right, he's killing us on our legs, now killing us with his legs, now we need to adjust. No, you force them to adjust from the get-go versus waiting for them to make sure that you figure out what works best. You make sure you bring your you bring your assignment, what you want to dictate to the game, you bring that from the very opening kickoff, and you go from there. It's going to come down to this Washington defense being able to stop or contain Josh Allen. If you don't do that, then we kind of know the outcome.
Yeah, I'm making Josh Allen beat me from the pocket. I'm harping on discipline and containment so heavy this week. Like, stay in your holes. Don't over pursue whoever, whether it's Jamin, Cameron Curl, whoever you're going to have spying. You have to keep him in the pocket and make him beat you from the pocket. You have to, because he is their running game. Nobody's scared of their running backs so far this year. So it's all like Jamal said, he is the offense. Everything should be focused on him, because if you limit him, then you don't have to worry about Stephon Diggs going off. You don't have to worry about Cole Beasley going off if you make sure you contain Josh Allen. So this is going to be, I think this is going to be the test of the defense, that front seven. This is going to be their test this week. Have you learned? Have you watched enough film to learn, to see where you're going? And I think we're also going to see the Landon Collins thing. I think this is going to be a make or break week for Landon. I think he came out these first 2 weeks a little too juiced. hearing all the talk all off season about his job being taken by Cameron Curl, and he's coming off the Achilles injury, and he got back pretty fast. He looked good, but now he's trying to do too much. And if you try to do too much and not do your assignment against Josh Allen, he's Daniel Jones on steroids. Okay, so he's gone. He's out of here. If you don't contain him, he's out of here. So it's going to be interesting this week, but this is the front seven's test on defense this week, is figuring out how to contain Daniel Jones and limit what he can do and what he's best at. And I think if they do that, I think the offense, I think they can get in the mid-20s. I think the mid-20s is about where they are right now as far as the offense. I know. I saw you, Doug. I saw you make the face.
It's tough to win a game in the 20s.
No, it is tough to win the game in the mid-20s, but your defense is supposed to be holding teams or limiting teams' opportunities as well. But I think the one thing Scott Turner's going to have to figure out very quickly, which I saw Kellen Moore figure this out. Dak was throwing the ball 50, 60 times. Yesterday, he threw the ball 27 times.
Yeah.
They put that thing on the ground because he figured out, okay, I need to control the clock. And that's what Scott Turner has to figure out. Like, your defense isn't playing top 5 right now. You got to do more things, whether it's the short passes that basically work his run plays or is actually running the ball. You have to control the clock, especially in Buffalo, especially when you're away.
Over 5 yards of carry for Gibson last game.
Look, man, he went away from the run. I don't know why. Like, Gibson is one of them backs who look like he gets stronger as the game goes along. But you go away from him every time. And I think that's probably the most frustrating thing about the offense for me so far, is that when you have an offensive line that's still gelling, you have a right tackle that's, over there getting roasted.
In pass protection, he was one of the better in run grades this
right.
Yeah.
But you're not running the ball enough for my liking for what your offense is at this point in the season. And I think he's going to have to make that adjustment, especially on the road, because now you have not just the 11 against you that's on the field. You have the how many thousands in the stands that's against you as well. And that's the calming force, is being able to road grade. So we'll see what they do.
Dre, this will be the first road start for Heineke, which is kind of crazy thinking about how long he's been in the league. What does he got to do to keep this team on track against the Bills on Sunday? Because he's actually up there. Like, if you look at the yards for quarterbacks in their first couple of games, I mean, he's like in the top 5 right now. If he's not number 1, it's been kind of crazy.
Because they're not running the ball.
Well, to speak to Pooh's point, kind of in a sense, I thought in the first game they did run the ball a little bit more, because some fans were actually complaining they were a little too conservative in the first game. But I thought they had a lot to do with the pass protection. They were really struggling in that game, so they had to run a little bit more. And as you see, Dallas, they saw the tape on that, and they said, oh, yeah, we could run on the Chargers, because Washington had a little success running on them. But then the second game against the Giants, I thought they used the passing game as an extension of the run game a lot in that game, which is why you saw Adam Humphries with 7 receptions for 44 yards. Like, he was getting a lot of those short dump offs on first downs to get 5 or 6 yards, which is cool. If you can get 5 or 6 yards on a first down, that's fine. And I thought that's what the game plan called for, because they attacked the Giants defense, I thought, the way you needed to. I mean, over 400 yards of total offense. So I wasn't too mad at the game plan. I mean, I questioned that late pick, of course, like all of us did, because that was just bad. But other than that, I thought they had a pretty good game plan. And it's going to come now with the Bills. It's going to be interesting about how this game's going to go, because the Giants, they wanted Taylor Heineke to play quarterback. Like, our game plan should be against Josh Allen. That was the Giants' game plan for Taylor Heineke. They wanted him to stay in the pocket, and they didn't want him to use his legs, because they didn't think he could beat them from the pocket. And he carved them up all game long. So I don't think that's going to be the Bills' game plan. I watched the Bills-Dolphins game yesterday. and they send the kitchen sink at you. Like from the beginning of that game, Tua didn't even have a second to gather himself after he snapped the ball before someone was on his ass. They were sending safeties and cornerbacks on blitzes early in the game, and that's how he got hurt. And they kept that pressure up on Jacoby Brissett all game. So I'm wondering if the Bills are going to send pressure at him like they did against that Dolphins team. And if that's going to be the case, then Heineke is going to probably have to use his legs a lot more than he did the Giants game. But it's encouraging to know with Heineke that he shows that he can beat you two ways, but he can beat you from the pocket or he can beat you with his legs. But like I said, it's a much tougher opponent. This is his first road start. So we don't want him to do too much. Don't be a hero. Stay within this concept. Feel the pressure, and if you need to, try to get outside, but we don't want to have him running for his life all day long. We want him to stay composed and just make good decisions with the football, keep us in the game. Everything doesn't have to be a big play, but like I said, he just has to play level.
Jamal,
Scott Turner,
you guys have got. Go ahead, Boo.
My bad. Scott Turner better have the screen package out this week on offense.
I agree.
If Buffalo's going to bring the house like they was bringing it yesterday, them wide receiver screens, running back screen, like tight end screens, he better have the screen package ready to go.
Yep.
As soon as if he see them start coming, okay, check into that screen. Let's go, because that's what the screen was made for. It's the blitz beater. So you better have it ready. Better have it ready this week.
Cool. I don't know if you're familiar with what these guys got going on. Jamal, tell them a little bit about what you guys are doing, because the show is interesting. You've got the podcast, but you're doing Twitch now. You got it set up for people to call, right? Tell us a little bit about what's going on, because it's really cool what you guys are doing. Yeah.
So the Trap or Die podcast is, mainly it's a podcast, obviously, but our concept, as all when you think about Twitch, you think about the gaming, and obviously that's the primary feature that they emphasize on Twitch. But then they're also diving down the realm of music, sports, and fitness as well. And I'm sticking to the sports realm, and what people kind of miss out. It's not a bad thing. You can always tune into the podcast, but when you tune into the live stream, it allows you to have that real time interaction, like as opposed to YouTube. And you could do YouTube live, but at the same time, sometimes you're doing watch-alongs of your show on YouTube, whereas Twitch, you can be a part of the show at any given moment via the comments, via calling in, and that's kind of the feature that I kind of set up for our stream. On certain days we do call-in, so we can all just talk. Everybody who's a supporter of the show, or everybody who just loves tuning in, you had that opportunity to talk whatever it is that you want to get off your chest as it relates to watching the football team. So Twitch gives us that platform to do the live stream and allow everybody to be a part of the show at any given moment, whether it's the comment or being able to call in. And that's kind of what we got going on there. So we'll see where it goes, but we're still building it up. But things are good right now with the environment and the community that people are looking forward to when it comes to watching football and stuff like that.
And Manny, what days are you guys doing now?
We do Monday through Thursday. Like Jamal does mostly Mondays by himself with a couple of call-ins. I join the shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays, as well as AJ. All three of us. Well, AJ when he can. So you can catch us every Tuesdays and Thursdays and Mondays. And Jamal also does Wednesdays as well with his All NFL podcast.
Is Trap or Die?
Trap or Die.
You remember Young
Jeezy?
I'm
about to say, I'm about to say, but see, Pooh, Pooh's hip. He knows. He gets to play on words.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. It's exactly what we're talking about.
Oh yeah. Now I'm gonna add y'all. I don't really be on Twitch heavy, but I do have a Twitch account, so I'm gonna make sure I add y'all so I can get the notifications when y'all go on. Yeah,
Monday through Thursday, and then we're back on game days too, pregame and postgame. So that's the best part of it, man.
Nice. And tell them real quick where to find you guys on Twitter.
So you can find me, for those who are looking at the YouTube, it's my name, Jamal, but it's Let Maul Tell It. Make sure that U is in there, because you ain't going to find me if you don't put the U in there. But it's Let Maul Tell It on Twitter, man.
And me, you can find me at DC Sports Dre on Twitter. And like I said, you can find me on the Trap or Die podcast on Tuesdays and Thursdays and post games and pre games. And I also have a blog that I've been doing recently where I'm just putting out content relevant to the team, whether it's for history of the team or just present team. So, I'm putting out some stuff for y'all.
Nice.
The blog, I read the blog. It was really well written.
I appreciate that.
Nice.
All right, fellas. Well, on to Buffalo. Whirlwind. I appreciate y'all.
Orchard Park, here we come.
Hey, I appreciate y'all for having me, Dre, as well.
Yeah, appreciate y'all, man.
No problem. Thank y'all, fellas. Y'all have a good one.
And you too, man. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Peace.